Wellington Access Radio.
He nailed it.
I did. See, I've been practicing in the mirror.
First time.
I've been going over that every day
Yeah.
for the last week.
You gotta do that
all I've done.
visualizing.
It's a bit of a trick. Not tripping over your words with that one, isn't it?
Anyway, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Blackhouse. You're in the studio here today with Eddie, Nani, and Liya. We have Onkeo on the
Social media.
I was gonna say ones and twos.
You were so close.
I've just been thinking about DJing a lot. Okay,
So close.
Onkeo on the ones and twos, or Onkeo on the videography. How's everyone doing today?
Good. Yes.
Yes.
With parentheses, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
But you are pandemic good. You are level 2 good.
Yeah, level 2 good.
Yeah. No. That is to say, oh, I'm fantastic. Oh, does that mean you haven't had a breakdown in the last 48 hours? Sure. No, that's just the new norm. So
Yeah.
I'm fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're here on a very nice, warm, and sunny Saturday afternoon.
A very special Saturday afternoon.
This is kind of the second time the whole crew's been back in the space station since before lockdown. And we thought what we're going to do is we're going to do this episode a bit differently, because we are going to, instead of we usually have guests and stuff on, but our guest today is Liya.
We'd like to welcome Liya to the Blackhouse.
Yeah.
Liya's the Blackhouse.
Thank you.
So Liya, tell us about yourself.
Laura,
What do you want to know?
Alright, so today's episode.
Just everything. Start from I don't know.
Today's episode, the feature focus is going to be the Blackhouse itself and why you started it.
Right.
And what your inspirations were. But before we get on to that, we want to know your name, if you're available, if the beautiful black men of Wellington.
My name?
Your name, your full beautiful name.
My full beautiful name,
Your
Liya
full-
Teresa Lupala.
Oh, there we go.
And I've always felt weird about my middle name being Teresa, because it's actually Teresa.
Teresa.
Yeah.
Too many raisins.
No, it's like another way of pronounce. It's actually a way that they pronounce it, but it's I don't know if it's Spanish or Italian or something.
Teresa.
Yeah, it's probably one of those kind of like Mediterranean European.
Yeah.
Because I just remember because obviously from the Portuguese influence, I know a lot of people in Brazil called Teresa.
Yeah. So I think that's what my mum was all on about.
So I got you beat on middle names. I'm Edward Tiger Kirkpatrick Endon Dickerson.
Tiger.
Yeah.
Kirkpatrick.
Edward Tiger Patrick.
Kirkpatrick.
Edward Tiger Kirkpatrick.
Okay, please. See, the thing, it doesn't sound like that because my mum was British. So.
There we go.
But yeah, I don't know what the reasoning. I think.
Isn't Kirkpatrick a famous Scottish guy?
Probably.
Is he?
Maybe Irish.
Wasn't he the best friend of Braveheart?
I have no clue. I don't know enough about Scottish history.
Neither did Braveheart the movie, so that works.
He was the one with the red paint. There was Kirkpatrick in the red and Braveheart in the blue.
God, that movie is a mess.
Okay.
I'm glad we got that one out there.
Okay, so what we're going to do, next time we have a kind of on the levels, we're going to break down all the historical inaccuracies of Braveheart.
Yes. Oh God.
But for now, I guess, let's delve into the history of the Blackhouse, because we're calling this our 50th episode. This is the first full episode with everybody
so
back
wish
here.
we had like that like just like queued up for that.
I'll pull up some party I'll pull up some party sounds after our first music break.
Thank you.
But yeah, so obviously Nani and I have only joined the Blackhouse through over the course of this year.
And then I threw you in the deep end.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So
that's funny because I think that's the only place I thrive as a black girl. You're just like, what? The shallow end. I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. Oh, the deep end. Yeah. Okay.
But in the deep end, it was like I think that's the best way to learn.
I'm in the deep end.
Okay, so back to it. So I honestly I don't know the full history of the Blackhouse. I'm just gonna know from when I got involved. So give us the rundown. Give us what was the reason for starting this?
Well, it was actually me and Tommy back before COVID, and we
Tommy last name Tommy.
Tommy, yeah.
Tom. So his last name is last name.
No, Tommy is.
Tommy.
I don't know if I should be saying last names,
okay,
but Tommy's he's a gen.
Yeah.
But basically, we were just hanging around at home, and I was talking to him about like I really like watching those podcasts on YouTube. There was I like the academics one.
Yeah.
And I really like Joe Budden's character. And I love who's that woman? I actually really enjoyed the Wendy show while it was on.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people don't like her, but I think she's hilarious.
She's not walking in being like everyone should like me. That is not her game.
No. And I just thought like, and there was another one that started up in Australia, and I was thinking we should be doing this here. We should be just having not so scripted a thing, but just like young or I'm open to young or old, it doesn't really matter to me, but you know, African New Zealanders, Black diaspora people just coming in and talking about what's real.
Yeah.
Like what's actually happening.
Yeah.
And so we were bouncing this idea around like over Christmas period, December of 2019.
Yeah.
And then I said, and then he said, oh, well, I used to do stuff at the radio. And I said, let's do it. So, so we went to sort of plan it. And then January passed. And it was sometime in January that we had that conversation.
This year or the year before?
2020.
Yeah.
Last year.
So sometime in January. And we were just bouncing around ideas for a name. And I just went, what about the Blackhouse?
Yeah.
and he goes, I love it.
Yeah.
And so we just went to start it before COVID hit, but then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And everything was just, and I think we'd already had the conversation with, I don't know if we'd had the conversation with the manager. Yeah, and just sort of like talk to her and stuff. I don't know if that was before or after COVID, but then
time around COVID just kind of blends.
It just blends together, doesn't it? So yeah, and so we just kicked it off. We just started doing it, and at first we were pretty. I don't think we were scripted, but we were pretty sort of like aware of what we were saying and doing, and I was like, I really want it to just get more free flow.
Yeah.
Because I think. I don't know, I'm not really into the scripted thing. And then Tommy went back to uni and onto modelling and and then we did it with Pater for a little while. So Pater came in, Modi came in for a little while. He's always got heaps of stories. So Modi's a show all on his own over and over and over again.
Yeah, that's the Modi show.
Modi show, yeah.
You could probably do that like Moe show or like, you know, In Living Colour or whatever.
Yeah. and then there was another situation and Pater had to leave. And then I was just like, okay, well, I'm just going to do music and see what happens. And then you got in contact with me. So that's where you popped in.
Yeah.
And then there was another COVID somewhere in amongst all of that.
So it must have been a little, there would have been like an escalation end of the summer or something like that.
I think by the time you came, we'd already done, I'm pretty sure we'd already done nearly 40 shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been, so I remember coming in, so the first one I wrote for was maybe it's between 26 and 35.
Oh really?
I was writing.
Gee, times fly.
It is absolutely
and I've been away for a long bit after hospital.
So it was probably six shows that you and I did.
Yeah, no, as I recall it, I came on because you were interviewing me over the book, and you were like, "Holy crap, this is some deep stuff. Like this, I resonate." I'm like, "Yeah, it's because I don't know how to talk. I do not know how to do anything but the heavy." And you were like, "Well, that's what we're here for."
Yeah.
So you're like, come back. Well, I came back because you were having a knee surgery, and I was like, I'm happy to take over for that. So that was the time frame as far as I'm concerned. And I do not know if I came on before you or after you.
No,
you're after.
So I wrote a lot of the questions for our interview with you.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so I was.
And she said, like, there's another guy who's a nerd. You guys get along.
I think I'd handed in my resignation just before that show, before I moved up here. So that was kind of the timeline I would think I was working on. And then it was. It didn't go out, or it didn't record, or there was something wrong with it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. And then we had to re-record.
We had to redo it once we were up here.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the first.
Yes,
show
that's right. Because she had to come in twice.
Yes. There we go.
Blackhouse
Historia. Okay. Well, that's really good.
It was just really about, like, I kept hearing things from young people and actually a lot of older women that were not being talked about.
No.
And or only talked about in certain corners. And I thought, like, you know, talking about it and having real discussions about you know, different issues that affect us, whether they're as light or as heavy, it didn't really matter, but just having that space. And I think for myself, I think having that space was really important.
I think it was, and I congratulate you on being such an activated member of the Black community. I think it was really beautiful.
That's all I know how to do, is being an activist.
Well, I'd also
from a young age.
So when talking to, like, it's beautiful of you to have opened up the space for Black voices, young Black voices, older Black voices, heavy voices, and light voices. A little bit of promotion, a little bit of and a lot of music.
A lot of music.
A lot of music.
So much music.
Yeah.
The music thing is actually older than the Blackhouse, because while I was in Australia, I started noticing that, you know, because my oldest son's in both my sons are in the music industry. I noticed that there was a lot of young African Australians, like, really putting out good music. And I started seeing that they were actually collaborating with a lot of Afro-New Zealanders.
Right.
And so that got me curious. I was like, what is the scene happening in New Zealand?
Yeah.
And then I found out Auckland is quite a big music scene for young African New Zealanders up there. So I was blown away because I'd never seen it before.
Yeah.
And not in New Zealand. You had the odd artist that came and did congas or drumming and stuff like that, but not full-on artists, you know. And
full
you had
teams.
full production teams. Like, I hadn't seen that before. And so I became like, I just wanted to champion it because you know, because when I was 12, I wanted to grow up to be a rapper.
Yeah. Well,
because I was here when it arrived.
That was when Sugar Hill Gang.
When Sugar Hill Gang, I learned that whole song and even the dirty verse.
How much of that do you remember from memory?
I know quite a lot from memory, and it comes out every time I'm too drunk at a party. Like, I need to stop doing that.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, you don't. You're gonna continue.
I think I can do. What, there's 14 minutes. There's like the 14-minute cut, right? So
and one of the verses is really dirty. Like, there's a radio edit, and then there's an explicit edit as well.
Which one's that? Is it the Superman bit?
No, there's another one.
Okay.
Are we gonna do this on the show? Because if you're gonna throw that down on the show, we might need to have like a little warning, incoming rap.
No, but it's Sugar Hill, so
Because like when rap hit New Zealand, it was like everybody went crazy. Like, at school, I was actually at Avondale College at the time, waitressing on the John Waititi Marae opening.
I have a question. Was that accessible? Like, how accessible was, like, especially the more explicit end of rap in New Zealand?
Very difficult to access.
That's what I figured, you know? Something like the Blackhouse would have made a really big difference at that time.
Yeah. I mean, you know, back in those days, there was, because I was moving around a lot at that age, so not long after that, and back in the days, there was a DJ called Delvanius. Have you heard of him?
No.
He was a very famous DJ that DJ'd for a lot of country town high schools around Wanganui and all, because I was at Wanganui for a period. And so he had everything. Like, he had The Message, and it's like some of those things turned up in the record store, and some of them were being bought from overseas. We found out later. Like, a lot of the videos that you can see on YouTube, I never ever got to see. But I was dancing to that music, and I'm seeing who they were now.
Wow.
So I'd never seen Sylvester. And that's more back in the disco era. But I'd never seen Sylvester before until just recently.
Oh, wow.
Because, you know, like, even the magazines, when the magazines started coming out in the stores, they were quite expensive to buy.
Is that something you've been promoting on the Blackhouse as well?
What's that?
These local DJs that are, you know, that back in the day were disseminating music within the communities.
Have I been promoting them?
Yes.
No, that's the first time I've ever spoken about it.
Oh, well, there we go. That's
it's
a
like
first.
Delvanius is out there somewhere. Like,
Delvanius.
Like, yo, this shouted me out. Like,
Well, no, Delvanius passed away a long time ago.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but he was really famous, and then one day his van of all his stuff got burgled.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like we were all crushed because that was our disco guy, that was our rap guy, that was the guy that had the music for our school parties.
That's a really common story, actually. Like I can think of family members of mine even who have had like the same experience. I myself have gone through similar experiences where you know, especially here in New Zealand, you're going, you're promoting, you're doing your thing, you're doing your best to elevate, and then some drunk no-hoper comes and breaks your dreams by like stealing something or starting a smear campaign or something, like, or they start some drama with you directly, and then you just lose all of that fire. And I think that New Zealand's actually distinctly really bad for that.
I think it's that whole tall poppy syndrome.
Yes, especially
and it goes here. And I think it gets steroided somehow with other cultural things coming in that have their own sort of egotism or whatever, and it gets added to that.
Have you found any experience with that whilst running the Blackhouse? Like, you know, here you are, and you're you are literally the demographic of people who are most oppressed. Like, and I see you sticking your neck out, and I'm like, I'm gonna stick my neck out with her, but this is a terrible idea. You know, so I'm like, have you experienced that same, here you are elevating yourself, elevating your voice, elevating the voice of others. This is a very dangerous space to be.
I've always found like Wellington was hyper political.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what it's like in Auckland or other parts of the country, because every time I lived anywhere else, I was the only one. So I didn't have, so like my story or whatever it is I wanted to elevate wasn't there.
Yeah.
But, or wasn't even being included, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
So, and I was New Plymouth for 10 years. I was the only African.
Yeah.
You know, I was in, I was in West, you know, central Auckland, and then we moved to West Waterview near Avondale. Heard when I was going through the what do you call it, the archives downtown, I was looking at censuses, and apparently I was one of 3 Negroes
oh wow
in West Auckland.
3.
That's how what was on the census form. 3 West Auckland.
Wow.
And I know the other one was my half sister, who's half Ugandan. So so we don't know who the other poor sick was, and I feel really sorry for him. Because it was pretty tough. Being you know, like in Waterview, there were only 3 families of colour. When I was growing up there was a Māori family, an Indian family, and our rainbow family. And it was hard. It was hard. You had to, like, you know, I think we talked about this last week. You had to know how to fight. You had to know how to stick up for yourself.
Our Kung Fu episode.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm really impressed and proud of you for doing so. I do expect, like, both of us are stuck our neck out, and I expect some people to come in with some knives, but I'm like, but my Kung Fu is elite, so.
I think, that's what I think, that's what I kind of try and chalk it up to. I don't try to let it put me off, but sometimes you just get physically and emotionally exhausted,
You do.
and that's the thing that wears you out.
I honestly think that the thing that makes the Blackhouse special, however, is that it all exhausts you. At just being black in a place where you are alone and isolated is already sticking your neck out and existing as a tall poppy. So here we are in this space that you've created where we can actually reinvigorate ourselves by at the very least being heard in our troubles and in our trials.
I think that was the most important thing, because I think that well, these are just my personal opinions, but I think...
Well, that's what we're here for.
I think, as, you know, I'm a first generation of migrant who, you know, had to, you know, leave the country and whatnot. But...
it's hard being black. Ain't nobody gonna argue with that.
Yeah, it's just that I think there's this ideal that we get expected to be like, when it almost seems like you've got to put on another face on top of the other face. And that gets exhausting, having to do that. I mean, people talk about cross, what do you call it, when when you try to be like
code switching.
Code switching. People talk about code switching. In my day, we called it blending.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So wherever I was Māori for that day, or I was Tongan for that day, or I was Fijian for that day.
This sort of forced schizophrenia.
Yeah, exactly. It's a forced schizophrenia, and you're
survival
basically
schizophrenia.
You're basically got your own identity.
Yeah.
And then you're going, okay, but I'm around all these people, so I've got to actually get all of that as well.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's language. So I could actually greet people in several different island languages. I know, I can tell the difference between different island groups, which a lot of people don't pick up straight away.
Yeah.
It's very similar to being able to pick up the difference between different African nations.
Yes.
Just based on their accents.
Right.
Or, you know, certain quirks or colloquialisms or something like that.
Something in their gait or something in their what is it called, cadence in their way they speak.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I don't know if you'll have also noticed that thing when someone speaks Xhosa, like you can actually hear them click all through their talking, like, you know.
Yeah.
I apologize to everyone who heard me just pronounce that. I know y'all know.
Okay, so while we wait for the hate mail to come in, should we jump to a couple of songs?
Wait,
and then
hate
go
mail?
from there? I don't know.
There is some snobbishness on the way you pronounce that.
While we're doing the fallout of it.
Yeah, that's all right.
No, you're all good.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, like, before we go to cut to a break, the thing I feel like we could do with this is there's a little bit of like seeing you and your vulnerabilities through this space, and the fact that this is a point of strength which came from a point of vulnerability, and I just want you to sit on that one as we cut to a break.
Alright, so first up, do you want to introduce some of these?
Oh,
first up we have Rebel Time,
Yeah.
Think Twice, and Where You're From. So
Okay, so this is, Rebel Time, and that's got Munga K and Samba the Great. Now, I love Samba the Great. She actually recorded a track with my son, so I love her even more.
Perfect. Rebel Time, Munga K and Sampa the Great.
So who's the next one we're going to do?
Next one we got Think Twice, B Wise and Koj Radical.
Well, everybody likes Uncle B. Uncle B is my son's uncle. Kind of. Uncle friend.
and then Koj Radical is like one of the best artists out in the UK. Currently.
Exactly, and it was really funny because last week we played something with Koj, and then he's done a track with
Which is
Koj.
good. Yeah, I think like it's cool. I think it's cool seeing those connections now forming between, say, Australia and the UK as well. And finally we got Where You're From, Big Skis and Goldfang.
Okay, I haven't listened to much of Big Skis. I just heard about him, and then I found this track.
Oh, perfect. Aye.
Yeah, so I kind of liked it. So yeah.
Sweet. So let's kick it off with Rebel Time, then Think Twice, and then Where You're From.
By the way, Big Skis is bringing the Sudanese family together and the Trinidadian family together in one track.
Okay.
All West Sydney, so it's got to be good.
All West Sydney. Excellent. So here we go, Rebel Time. And we're back on the Blackhouse, Wellington Access Radio, 106.1 FM. And we are back in the studio with Liya.
That's right.
And Eddie and Nani.
And Onkyo on the social media.
And I'll be back behind the camera next week.
That's right.
I like playing Vlad.
Welcome back.
So, I have a question. I'm really interested to see, and I guess we've talked about on the show before, like the influence of, say, like Bob Marley in New Zealand, and like we've talked about like now the influence of hip hop in New Zealand. Did like artists like Fela Kuti like kind of make it over here in some circles, or like?
Yes.
So I'm just trying to think,
I remember it clearly. I'm pretty sure my stepfather had one of his records. But and he was a musician himself too, so he played all sorts of stuff. But also there was a very short period after I left my grandmother's where we lived on a hippie commune down in Nelson. So you saw everything there, like you saw that's where I first saw Panther Speaks, the magazine. They had it there. Saw records of Fela Kuti. Yeah, so it was around, but I don't think it wasn't something really that, say, by the time I got to high school and we were going to discos and stuff, we weren't hearing his music, but we're probably hearing music that he influenced, though.
Yeah, I feel like, that's probably, I think you're right in that I feel like it'd be a hard sell to play like Zombie. in a disco. Or
But but one thing I noticed with school discos, and because this is the 70s now, with school discos and house parties, like my mum had some friends that were Samoan, and every time they had a party, the music was real black music. It was real black disco. It wasn't the stuff that you heard at the school disco. Yeah, that was where you heard your ABBAs and all of it, you know.
That's
Bee Gees
that's like the Bee Gees. The Bee Gees, that kind of. I think the Bee Gees, because I think I just really, and it's because of Mamma Mia, like the music. But it's I really hate how ABBA is the go-to disco when unlike Boney M is right there.
It was
like,
right there.
If you're gonna talk
the
disco,
Freaks is Chic. They were the guys.
Right.
Chic.
Yeah.
Boney M, like even the Bee Gees, I'd throw like the more of a bone.
Or Shaka Khan.
Did I ever throw ABBA?
Like there was so much, like ABBA was so mediocre compared to the other disco music that was coming out, because disco's actually really.
I love ABBA.
Oh my god!
I know. It's my black card revoked.
Yep, it is.
So,
definitely.
Unfortunately, we'll be back next week with a new code.
I deserve it. I'm sorry. Look, I understand their cultural impact in terms of like all of this, but at the end of the day, if Mamma Mia starts playing, I will dance. It will look so dorky. I can't help myself. It's just what it is. Okay.
It's like some of the 80s music too that I hear. People have 80s parties, and I'm like, why do you want to have an 80s party? The music was so bad.
No, because disco's chic.
I think it's the thing.
Disco's cool.
It's like
but the 80s music.
It's like it's like one of those things where like 90s parties are now like you're gonna start getting more and more because there's enough people who have that nostalgic view of the 90s.
Yeah.
And it's one of those points where, and again, it's weird looking at what comes up, because it's always, obviously stuff like Backstreet Boys and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But it's weird because it kind of forgets the really cool, like if you look at like the Chicago like acid house scene.
Yeah,
you look
right.
at all those kind of scenes that kind of existed in those times
At the same time.
And it's that point of, like,
because the 90s was when grunge came out.
Yeah.
And garage and all that stuff.
Well, like, I go through and listen to, like, there's a lot of like old like Euro dance, and it's one of those things where it's a lot of them always like German producer and African American or Caribbean singers and vocalists. And I find that really fun, because it's one of those points you sit there and go like, it's this kind of weird crop. And it's the same thing with Boney M. Boney M was a whole bunch of Caribbeans, German producer. And it's one of those things where I think there's something really cool about the German music scenes that incorporates a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah.
And even now.
And
like,
Boney M was cool. Yeah. Like they remained cool throughout their career. Like anything they put out was good. Yeah. They didn't, but ABBA, no.
I understand. Like, look, you have to understand, like, one of the things about, like, there is a kind of lighthearted, like, I mean, equally Diana Ross, like, for, like, I just mean that there's a lightheartedness in certain things. And I would even go so far to say a kitschiness. Like, look at the way I'm dressed. This is some kitschy shit. My nails are blue. Oh. Right? Like, shot blue. Why? Because I actually feel, especially as a young black girl, it is almost like a punk rock, like, reversal. Like, I'm gonna have... Like, it is. It's like a reversal. It's like you cannot take from me... like bubbly, airheaded, soft-hearted, like kitschy, not a flippantness. You can't take it from me. I refuse to just be hard all the time. I'm not gonna do it. It is necessary for my survival to be hard all the time, which is why when I show you that I can be soft, I'm showing you how hard I can be. And I think that like it allowing myself. I remember defending Britney Spears at one point because I freaking love the song Toxic. Like, and I remember at one point just being like, people were like, well, you wouldn't like Toxic. I'm like, of course you would say that I wouldn't like Toxic. Toxic is a fucking baller-ass song. Like, it's good. And it was written by a black girl.
Like, she didn't write her own music?
No, she didn't write her own music. And actually the music writer behind Britney and a lot of those pop stars is like this lovely, beautiful, I cannot remember her name and it's going to drive me nuts. But she was a black girl. Like, and she was responsible for almost all of pop at that time, at that point in time. But people didn't know. But so I'm listening to it and being like, man, this slaps. Like, I mean, Britney I can take or give, but the song slaps. And I know somebody else wrote it. Then I find out, then of course you find out it connects back. back. And I actually feel the same about ABBA to a certain extent. I'm like, they had the Euro disco scene, but it was sitting on top of a black disco scene, like the black roller derby scene. And that was sitting there influencing
Right, yeah.
And so there's a part of me who's just like, okay, well, I don't really, like, I can listen to Elvis, know he stole all of it, and like still be like, yeah, well, I can listen to Eminem, know he stole all of it, and just be like, yeah, that's what it looks like when it gets influenced by, because we bring the A game, and I don't mind watching a B movie every now and again. So like, I do actually have a stance on that. I think that the thing for me is that I have a massively eclectic thing about music. And I think one of the things that I was really enjoying about the music that you were bringing to the forefront is that there is an aesthetically black music for which we can feel limited to. And I think that as we break out of those bonds and even connect back to what is historically ours, that we started, that we abandoned because somebody else took it, like, you know, like a stroppy older sibling. Like, we can come back to those places and actually, like, be like, yeah, no, look, I'm gonna dress how I'm gonna dress. I'm gonna be me, and I'm gonna let my blackness inform that, but I'm not gonna let it limit me, ever. Not ever.
That's one of the things that I liked about what's coming out of Australia, because there's such a big range.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of collaboration. Blessed. I mean, I don't even know what to say about this guy. He's, you know, like, I was thinking, how do you describe Blessed? He's funky R&B with a hard rock center. That's all I could think.
Yeah.
You know, he's got this guitar style, and, you know, like, I've seen pictures of him just playing the guitar, like that famous guitar player.
There's only one. I'm sure we can.
Yeah,
there can be only
Hendrix.
one.
Yeah.
Oh,
you know,
right.
and
You're right. Okay, you're right. There can be only one.
So, you know, like, just the range that they've got and the different genres of music that they're going into.
Yeah.
And they're not limiting themselves. They're being very experimental. I think that's the sound that's coming from down here is a lot more experimental.
Yeah.
And even I think you look at artists from between Auckland and here, like you can see like Wagwan is completely unlike anybody up north. Like and even from here to Dunedin, like you think TJ Zemba, like Z, like again completely different kind of sound. Like it's one of those points where I think New Zealand, it's again like Auckland's almost feel like, and again because it's probably the biggest, probably has the longest standing scenes in a lot of cases, and Auckland,
probably the biggest population
Auckland
too.
Probably, that's not saying there's not really cool experimental stuff going on there, but it's had that traditional base. It's like if we're gonna map the story of hip hop, like New York is like the base of kind of hip hop, and then you see it goes out west and completely changes, goes down south completely changes, goes to the Midwest completely changes.
What I found really interesting, and this was while I was still in Australia, was because I only came back in 2015. What I found really interesting was that African Kiwi artists were doing what traditional New Zealand artists, you know, Pākehā artists, bands, whatever, have done for decades, and that's go to Australia, collab with somebody in Australia, try and, you know, make a name or make a track or make something that's banging over there, then come back here, then go back there. This has always been the thing. Because I think the New Zealand music scene has its limits on how big you can get, and then you have to go to a bigger scene. But the difference between New Zealand and Australia is huge. So
the delta's massive. The delta, the gap between.
Oh yeah.
And to the point where, like, I've spent most of my time here in New Zealand, but when I was touring as an illustrator, I would tour around the States. And I have no name for myself under my own name, but under my pseudonym, where I was traveling across New Zealand, like America, they really got 9,000 followers. And then I have seen that there's just the same delta between New Zealand and Australia, where if like you don't have nothing when you go there, accumulate something here, even if that's just knowledge. Then go over there if you want pump numbers. You want numbers, you want fame, you want money. Move.
Well, that's the thing.
Also, and then come back, because people only respect you here once you have the numbers.
Well, that's another thing too, isn't it? I mean, I'm just watching what Jess B's been doing. I don't know how much Masbo Q's been collaborating, but Fadiso's and Felix the Great, he spent some time over there. I just really like this whole thing of, you know, like Africans from New Zealand going collaborating with, you know, the Africans in Australia. Like, it's just like really cool.
Well, and I guess it's the you know, realistically, that's the closest place you're gonna get people.
Yeah.
Aside from probably either South America.
Yeah.
Like, again, if you don't think like that's like the whatever 6 hours to Australia.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is to get to Australia versus, you know, the mass amount of time to go to South Africa or to Brazil or to even or California.
Yeah.
It's just that's the closest kind of thing. I think like it fosters that.
Well, I've always been interested in radio and DJing. I mean, the first time I DJ'd, well, I was probably about 18. It was at a club called the Lion Tavern in Queen Street.
Nice.
And there was no such thing as female DJs back then. And the guys said, and this was records.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, you know, none of this fancy stuff. And basically, you know, we're putting on 45s or 12 inches, and he's going, this will be really cool because there's no such thing as black girls doing DJing. You should do it. And, you know, I never got into it because I had to leave. Yeah, I had to split and go to New Plymouth. But then I went back to high school to finish because I'm a dropout, and basically did media studies when my kids were little. So even though I looked like all the students, I had a kid at home, and started a radio station at New Plymouth Girls High School. So and that was really JJ Feeney, that's her name. Yeah, the DJ. Yeah, she came to the radio station and she just said, "You've got a really good voice for radio," but I never got into that because I had a baby. So, but I had fun setting it up, and you know, like we'd play the radio station during lunch break, and then you know all the girls down the back having a cigarette, and just giving them code over the speakers so they know to put everything away, and so it was lots of fun. And then they said, you can't be giving code to the girls, you know, they're not allowed to do this, blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah, all right. But so yeah, it was just fun, and I had fun, and we had to make adverts, and we had to do programming, and we had to do our own music lists, and we had to do everything from scratch.
Yeah. I think that's and it's a cool space in the Blackhouse is, but again, like I think that was the next step in terms of recognition of black music in New Zealand is like the Edge or something like that, and even the hip hop station. No, I can specifically like a station like the Edge. Yeah, there's a station that does play. Obviously, it's like My FM and stuff like that, and there's Flavour, but I reckon it's a station like the Edge, like having like an hour and having that kind of space, because I think obviously the problem with radio now is, and even though I don't think it's radio because in some ways it's kind of a dying medium in some senses. But the thing is, at that point I don't. I would
go so far as to say a shifting medium.
Yeah, shifting probably from radio to podcasting.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that kind of comes up with that, right, is if it's in that shift, why is there this adherence to needing to play the same top, like 5 of the top 40? Yeah. And then cut out all the rap verses. Yeah. Why is there still that adherence to that? When actually what you could be doing is, if you want to try to keep radio fresh, what you can do is you can open up spaces. You can be okay, cool. Well, if the Edge suddenly had like, and that's how BBC like One Extra got started. Those things, that's something you had.
Well, it's like what you said last week about how clubs could actually do more by actually diversifying the music that they have in the clubs. It's the same with radio. You know, like radio can make space. You know, they get most of their stuff from commercials and stuff like that, their money and whatnot. But you know, like I don't understand it myself. There's so much good music, and it is the same people that keep getting revolved. But there's so much good music underneath that. Yeah. You know what I mean?
There's this balance when you're in business. I had a business mentor when I was 24, and I'm very proud of myself. I had a net positive business. But one of the things he sort of made clear is that there are several different popular models of business, and one is to be responsible to your investors, and the other is to be responsible to, like, you know, the number of people who support you.
Consumers.
To your consumers. Thank you. Yes, very much. And when you're responsible to your consumer, you'll get that rapid transformation of your product, like on a day-to-day basis. Whereas when you're responsible to your investor, you will always have the same consistent product.
Right.
And so what you'll get with something, if you're seeing that there's this huge demand and there's no response, that means it's probably an investor model.
Right.
Which means that what you want to do in those models is actually appeal to the investor.
Yeah.
If you want to see any like massive changes.
But I mean, that's where we got pirate radio station from.
That's right.
You know, and you know, like they had pirate radio station in England. There's a movie made about that, and I thought that was so cool.
Oh, I love pirate radio.
Yeah.
I go back and watch old pirate radio scenes. Should we jump into a little bit of music? I know you mentioned Blessed before, so we can go Love and Loyalty from Blessed.
Yes.
And I want to play Fadiso's new track.
Yeah, that's a new one.
So we got Nice by
Fadiso, I love this guy's voice and the stuff that he's doing right now. He's putting out a lot of he's got that whole percussion going all the way through, you know, and I love it.
Excellent. So we have Fadiso and Blessed. Let's go. This has been the Blackhouse on Wellness and Access Radio 106.1 FM with Eddie, Nani, Liya, and on Q.
Yay!
This has been Love and Loyalty by Blessed, and we'll see all of you guys next week. Peace.
Thank you so much for coming along.
Have a good Labour weekend.